5 yesterday. Eastern New York.
So I'm in a field, standing in a field behind Troy Howard Middle School, where is it the Waldo County Amateur Radio Club is having an event. I'm with Jim Stevenson, who I've known over the years through his many wonderful greetings as I enter the YMCA.
That's right, early in the morning. Nice to see you again, Ned. Actually, I think it's Waldo County Area Radio Association, so rather than club, although everybody refers to it as a club as we're talking. And so therefore, what we have going on here today, you've shown up for, is a exercise that's done every year called Field Day, and it's run by our national organization, the ARRL, which is the Amateur Radio League national organization, and the function for the purpose of it is besides being a contest where we gather points to see how well we've done, is to give ourselves some time to become familiar with our equipment if we're ever having to go out and be part of an exercise or of a disaster or something like that. So we're testing out our abilities to set up our equipment and to make contact throughout the areas and keep track of it and see how well we do within the contest. So anyhow, we have communications, which we're testing our ability and how far we can transmit and how clear of a signal that we can get and so forth, and be able to communicate during these disaster situations where other forms of communications have failed.
I think this is kind of an interesting thing because, there have been, I think about, places like Puerto Rico, the power's out, the cell phone towers are out,
Yep.
Everything is out. And that's, we're dealing with all this climate change stuff. I can imagine some hurricane coming on through this area, and then, everybody's like trying to figure out what's going on. I remember when we had the ice storm and everything got knocked out. That was back when you were in warmer climates, I suspect.
That's right.
But tell me a little bit about this technology. What is this technology? I see these towers you've set up, and it looks like the radios look a lot like, to me, fancy CB sets.
Well, you could look at it that way, if you're not a member of amateur radio. There's a lengthy process you go through to be a licensed amateur radio operator. I mean, you have to abide by certain regulations, and you have to pass a test in order that the FCC qualifies you as being able to get in on these frequencies. And these frequencies that we utilize are reserved just for our organization. And they cover a great span. We do not only regular radio communications with voice, we do digital, we do Morse code, we do slow scan TV, talk to satellites and so forth. Here we're just practicing our normal over-the-land communications and capabilities, because if you have to set up in a hurry, you don't want to have to be dealing with a lot of other extra activities in that regard. So in any event, just to mention the disasters though, we don't mention Hawaii, but there's a whole section of Hawaii that doesn't have any communications right now because of the lava flow that's come down and made a segment that has no power and nothing else. And so our communication gear that we utilize here, there's several ways that we power it. One of them is we power it on batteries, we power it on solar cells, and we power it with gasoline generators. And each one of those also gives a certain number of points as how we're using our gear and the method that we use to power it. And that's how we score our points too.
Okay.
So
it's a game in a way that's going on right now.
Well, yeah, they wouldn't get us out here otherwise.
But what I think was kind of cool, I was seeing people and they were trying to reach other people around, and you get points for the places you reach. And the other thing I notice is, speaking of protocol, everybody doesn't say WTA, they say Whiskey Tango Alpha and things. So you need to know all. It's kind of cool military speak. It seems to me it would appeal to some
people. It that way, but it actually has a purpose because too many letters sound similar.
Right, B and P,
Yeah, all those things. So we use the nomenclature that's designed for communications. A lot of people throw in their own every once in a while, but they have a complete set of words to represent every character that there is in the alphabet, and those help clarify when somebody comes back and said, did you say Kilo Delta Zero, or did you say Kilo Dumb Zero, or whatever it is? And we have to go back and that's my call sign, Kilo Delta Zero, which is KD0QAY. So in any event, and everybody that's licensed has their own call sign, but when we're operating in here, and we're operating as a club, so we use the club's call sign in putting out our call sign. So now it gets verified because all this stuff goes into a computer. We track who we contacted, they track who they contacted, and it's all fed to the ARRL over the week through a computer system, and that verifies all the connections. So there has to be a handshake, basically, to make sure that took place. And based on now here, because we've got 4 stations set up, or 5 stations set up, we not only have where we're located in the club and where we're operating from, but we identify ourselves as 1 Alpha, 2 Alpha, and 3 Alpha. And there's other letters that represent different things that in the whole operation. So it's quite a list of parameters that you have to operate on. But the real essential thing that it's all boiling down to is our ability to turn ourselves into this type of vehicle we have behind us here.
A cool-looking ambulance.
Yeah, which is loaded up with radio gear that in the event that there's something that happens, the EMA actually is where this is stored and so forth. And
the Waldo County Emergency Management. I know Dale Rowley showed it to me,
yes.
And that was the inspiration for Belfast Community TV getting its own ambulance to put its video gear in. So that's cool. Well, I just want to say that I don't normally run into you, but the one place I run into, not you, the club, is at like the canoe races. You guys have, what other things do you do?
Well, besides the canoe races on the Passy and on the St. George, which are the beginning of all of the boating in the season, and sometimes it's iced over and we don't get to do it. But we also do the bike across Maine, the trek across Maine, the Islesboro swim, because the Races group, which is a organization that it can be called upon, the Races is manned by volunteer amateur radio operators, and they come from other segments. They come from Camden, they come from Bucksport, they come from all over, and they're not actually members of our club. So Races can draw on all of these people that are members of the Races operation. And then you go up one more level, which the national organization runs, which is called ARES, and that one can get called on by the government as well, and they can operate completely across the state. When you're doing local stuff, it can be on a volunteer basis, or it can be on something that's called out by the EMAs.
Well, I wanted to ask, if someone's fascinated by this and wants to get involved, is there like a Facebook or a website or something? How do they get a hold and get started in this?
Well, now that we have the internet, the Facebook is the best way to go. Okay, we have a WACRA, Waldo County Area Radio Association.org. That's the internet address. We also have Facebook, which is the same, call the letters Waldo County Area Radio Association.
I'll put it on the screen here.
Okay. And I'll print it out so I don't have to pronounce it. I have my memory banks don't serve me that well. But anyhow, those will give you all sorts of pieces of information. And of course, there's always the people who become interested in becoming amateur radio operators. Our club offers a scholarship program for people who come to sign up for it. And that's also laid out on our website as to how to get involved in that. And it helps to pay for your materials and get you through your tests and so forth. And you get your license, and then you can operate. And as you get more proficient, you can go up the ladder into the various segments it's almost like being in any other club. You reach a level and you can then go to the next level up by taking another exam.
All right. Well, I've been speaking with Jim Stevenson, and it's been, there's a cacophony of sound around me, and I would just like to say that this is just one of those wonderful organizations that keeps us, I think, safe in the time of an emergency, and I'm really pleased to showcase it for somewhere in Waldo County.
Whiskey Bravo 3, Echo Hotel Sierra.
So there it is.
Whiskey 1, Echo Mike Alpha.
Is that correct? Echo Hotel Sierra.